Uh, yeah, it's okay. I'm going to do about 30 minutes
Okay, sounds good.
this time.
All right. Well, we are live, everybody. I'm just waiting for some people to come on here. Michael and I decided to do a quick little live video for you. There was a couple things I actually wanted to go over with Michael here. Some interesting information came across my desk. Let me just pull up. Here we go. All right. Doc Illusion's here. Ute's here. Let's go. All right. Let's do it. Okay. So I'm going to practice. I'm going to do this screen share. So currently, ladies and gentlemen, we have a summit that is taking place. I posted a little bit a couple days ago about this. And for those that don't believe that there is an agenda for world government, there is actually a world government summit happening right now. World Government Summit.org. They've had these for the last few years. And all right, I got the website up. Let me just see if I can share my screen. Boom, boom. Screen share. Application window. There we go. All right. Can you see this on your end, Michael?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Okay, good. Just making sure. All right. So this is a summit right now where different, apparently, leaders and world leaders and different groups within various governments are meeting in Dubai to discuss how we can make the world a better place. And I found it rather interesting that when you look at the, let me go to, where do they have the partners? Here we go. So first telltale on this one is the partners. So we have the big boys, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank Group, Policies for Better Lives, World Economic Forum, the Dubai Fund for Development, World Health Organization, World Trade Organization, United Nations. So this is who is, putting this event on. And Michael, I wanted to ask you about this because when you look at their agenda, it all sounds nice and happy because they're talking actually about happiness. And of course, you've got the Global AI Governance Workshop. I wonder what that one would be all about. You have the Global Happiness Outlook, the Happiness Pyramid, Return to Happiness, Global Happiness Policy Report, On the Way to 2030. Sounds like some of the old books you'd read from back in the day. Network, we got the Nudge Towards Well-Being, What Makes People Happy? Can Happiness Measure Progress in Society? The Laytest Technologies in Happiness and Well-Being. I wonder what they're talking about there, meeting with the World Health Organization. Cass Sunstein book signing, and on and on and on we go. The AI, the new measurement of happiness. AI, the new measurement of happiness. I wonder what they say about this. For over a decade, Dr. Kazuyano has incorporated AI and technology in measuring and improving happiness and well-being. And we're learning in this session, they're talking about the ways in which AI can promote happiness. Oh my goodness. So Michael, first reactions to this concept of a world government summit and talking about AI and making the world happier.
Well, it's so much nonsense, of course, but aren't they the very ones that are pulling the rug to make people unhappy? So it's almost like when government goes away, all the great sages like Shelley and everyone knew that when government dissolves, people will be good and happy, right? Aleister Crowley knew this, Rabelais knew this, Shelley knew this. When you get rid of the impositions and the authoritarian structure, people of themselves just kick around in the sun, and smile and get on and are happy. The idea that you can mechanically inculcate happiness, that's about as useless as what they say they're doing in the schools for the kids. They've got we've been to their churches, we've been to their institutions, we've been to their colleges, we've been to their kindergartens, right? We've been to their daycare, we've been to their penthouses and corporations. The fact that they keep on wheeling out the same rotten donkey on the same rotten cart and hoping that you're going to fall for it again, right? We've had every conceivable branch, and phase of their institutions we've had. But they realize that world control, right, one leash for many necks, it's been working as far as they're concerned. The ship of state has been going quite well. And so they're propagandists, pure and simple. So they wheel this out again. And since they're the ones who are pulling the rug from our happiness, they're the ones making people miserable. They're the ones taxing you to death or whatever else it might be, right? You know, or my God, just flooding the media with horror stories from all over the world that they're really the ones creating, by the way.
Right.
And then that unseats you and it makes you shrink from, you know, engagement in the world. These are people who specialize in unhappiness on a colossal universal level. They're very spiritless science, which is bankrupt, right? I've just done my mysticism premium thing, you know, where we took it apart one more time, just in case Path of the Fool wasn't enough, and other things I've done. But this time it was systematically taken apart so that the most skeptical Sam Harris fan would just be, okay, change the subject, quick, get me out of here. All right, it's been nailed, done. But these people, their spiritless science is already to denude you of any connectivity to the Russellian universe. Right, with their big bangs, with their straitjacket materialism. They love it. Remember I told you they have no shoulder move, they have nowhere to move. These people are in straitjacket philosophy, straitjacket science. And they want you to come in, join the club, and sit in the straitjacket, and then we can talk about it. The man who's amateur, who's outside the cage, right, of academia, is free to speculate. He's free to think, right? You know, and he's free to change his view and change his mind. Something that we have to realize these people can't do. They stay within that cage. They are locked within it. They're not speculative thinkers. They're dogmatists and they're demagogues, right? So they're the last people that I would hand the trust and happiness. You know, so that's why they wheel it out. That's why they take it. It's like a joke for them to say, we are the bringers of death. We're the orgasmatron. We are the bringers of murder and death. Let's put on a new hat and say, we'll bring you happiness too. Of course, what it really means, the reason they're really all doing this, and you have to read a lot of books on this shite to realize what they're talking about, is because their formula for happiness is pure communitarianism. It's back to the global civil society in which you're unhappy because you sit there over your shop, or you sit there in your grotto peeping out of the letterbox. You know, you grab the pizza and just slam the door, and the pizza guy's looking over your shoulder going, why's he got all those guns, man? All right? Yeah, that's America. That's the world. So we're going to bring you out to dance in the streets. It's going to be Oliver. It's going to be, oh my God, right? They're going to just, you know, they're going to insist that the solution for happiness is more interactivity with a bunch of gormless twats like yourself. That's it. And so it leads to the global village. Remember I said we've been talking for years, since Architects of Control and before, about the post-human agenda. Yeah, that does mean drugging the shit out of somebody with happy pills individually. But then now that you're in the dumps, right, with the whole of the psychiatry, you're down in the sludge, in the mud. Now they want to take you out of that by some full promise of the Pied Piper with his happiness image has come over the hill, and you'll join it because you're in such a depth of depression, right? You'll join this horrible Quatermass collective, you know, seeking for the elusive, and then off they go into the sunset and over the fucking cliff. It's the biggest joke of all. It's the restaurant at the end of the universe where everybody sits there and cheers and cracks open bottles of wine and sends up the balloons while the universe explodes in one final devastating cataclysm. And everybody buys a ticket to go to this restaurant, according to Douglas Adams' wonderful book. They actually go forward in time, right? This is the biggest thrill you can have, is if you're a billionaire, you buy a ticket to go forward in time so you can sit at the restaurant at the end of the universe and salute the destruction of the entire universe. One big last final high. We're that close. And this shit that you're reading there is born out of that same, you know, psychopathy, that same nonsense.
Oh, exactly. And there's what's interesting to me is a lot of people would look at that, and right on the face of it, they would say, oh, look, we're all coming together, all the nations of the world, one big happy family. And all that these globalists want is peace and utopia and all that kind of stuff. But you have to follow through on the actions of organizations like the World Bank and the IMF and the World Trade Organization and these Saudis in Dubai, and, you know, their secret handshakes behind the scenes, and all of the different agendas that have been discussed for over 100 years between these groups, you know, starting back with trying to found the League of Nations after World War I. We've talked about this many times. We had Michael Black on the show to chat about that. And Michael, we did a show on that too, just kind of highlighting what happened in those, you know, after those big wars, what started those wars, what kept those wars going, what these people have financed. They have financed mass genocide. They have destroyed nations. And their goal is to destroy nations. They're now saying it in the open. This isn't a secret anymore. This isn't some conspiracy theory now. This is just out in the open where they're telling you what they want. And if you're not sure about that, you can go back to some of the main thinkers on this and the people that were talking about it. You can go back to like Julian Huxley's speech back in 1962, when he was saying that, you know, we're in the process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people to love their servitude. Actually, that was Aldous Huxley. Julian says there's evidently a whole class of drugs affecting the central nervous system, which can produce enormous changes in sedation, in euphoria, in energizing the whole mental process without doing any perceptible harm to the human body. And this presents to me the most extraordinary revolution. In the hands of a dictator, these substances in one kind or another could be used with, first of all, complete harmlessness. And the result would be, you can imagine a euphoria that would make people thoroughly happy, even in the most abominable circumstances. And this is what they're looking for. They were looking for contentment. That was another thing that Bertrand Russell used to talk about, was he's like, out of all of the traits that they consider desirable, these oligarchy, contentedness is the number one. Contentedness is not happiness. Contentedness is not eudaimonia. It's not what we've been discussing about going through selfhood and connecting to the interdimensional universe that is you. You know, like, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about artificial intelligence, because they don't believe that humans are intelligent. So they're like, let's upgrade humanity. Anything nature has to provide is garbage. This is where you get into the World Health Organization and the whole strategy there to completely subvert the natural processes of your biology, take it over using nanotechnology and all these kinds of things that used to just sound, Michael, like we were talking about some kind of science fiction movie, eh?
That's quite right. Did you see in the chat, I sent you a link? Maybe you could screen share this book. I've read it from cover to cover. I used it in so many presentations, some of the information from that. This is just one of the books that is written by the heavyweights, the top brass, you see.
Let me get this up here.
Yeah, people got to know what we're talking about and its origins.
Go back to my screen, get rid of this ad. Okay, so here we are. Loneliness, human nature, and the need for social connection.
Right. This is written by a major heavyweight. I can't remember from what university he's from. It might be Washington, but this is the top of the line. This is one of the great theses. This is one of the ones where, you know, they do all the polls and polls and polls for many, many years, and then they collate what they've discovered, right? Yeah, you know, these are these are the top Johnnies and the top labs. They have the top degrees. And his conclusion, this is just insane when you read this book. It is literally a manifest. It should be renamed happiness, because it's a formula for happiness. And of course, on the surface, if you want the shallowest form of happiness, it's not really joy or eudaimon like you're talking about. It's a form of gratification. I wouldn't even call it pleasure. We don't know what pleasure is. That's the theme of the Dragon Mother presentation on the premium. But what we do have is gratification, right, in various forms. And so when they say happiness, you've got to understand all they mean is just tawdry, sensational gratification of pretty much an episodic level. This is substantiated by the fact that although they do quote statistics about people saying, yeah, I'm kind of lonely, I don't interact anymore, or, you know, people have died around me that I used to know. Yes, that will definitely contribute to this efficacy, this mercurial movement in society. That's obvious. It's a no-brainer. But it doesn't stop those people getting up to go out to join a book club or sit at a poetry reading or go down to a local bookstore. You know, all of our society is just jam-packed with things to do for free, including the classes that cost a little, you know, very small amount of money, and people can be engaged. There's all sorts of open mics. I play open mic. I did in Seattle for over 5 years, you know, once, twice a week and things like that. You know, there's no reason to be lonely. You can even come and listen to us playing open mic. I mean, for goodness sake, you know, sit by the fire and enjoy an evening with a coffee and seeing some people play. You know, if those people that I knew could do it, and many of them with luthiers, and, you know, they knew about the guitar. I learned a lot about the wood, and I learned a lot about sound. You know, I learned a lot of stuff from hanging with those people, right, in Seattle. So there's no reason for it at all. But if for some reason you can't get up and go, it's because some deeper, right? It's not just because you're not moving in society. We've been moving in society for hundreds of years. Happiness should be out the door. The formula that they're presenting when you read these books, actually a great many of us have been doing it. But remember, we used to work in the fields. Remember when neighbors used to help each other, even in Northern Ireland at the height of the trouble, the neighbors used to keep the key in the door 24/7, just in case a neighbor's kid or you needed sugar or milk. Keys in the door in the middle of sectarian estates, riddled with crime and violence. But what came first was that, thread of humanity that never got lost. So we've been doing all those social things. Happiness should be out the door. It didn't just die away. It was crushed by these very people who are presenting this bromide in front of you, this carrot and stick mentality. Sometimes it's a stick. I've been saying this from day one. I'm getting tired saying it. Said it all the way through architects. They got the carrot and they got the stick. Well, sometimes it's the stick and now it's the carrot. And that's what this is. And I put up on the blog, right? Go to Unslave, go to the Michael Tsarion blogs, right there on the homepage. And there's a post that I made very much connecting to what you're talking about. It is entitled Insider Exposes World Government Agenda. Right? So go to my blog right on the front of Unslave. Yeah. And then
here we go.
Oh yeah. George Hunt. Right, United Nations Earth Summit, the very things you're talking about, 1992. But this time it blew up in their face because an insider spilled the beans. Lord Rothschild had given speeches. You see some of the other these heavyweights. And George Hunt, the man who made this video, unfortunately is a bit, low quality, but it's certainly, you can hear it and you can really understand it. And then below I put the name of a book called Fearful Master, which everybody should get a second look at the United Nations, I'm so glad we're doing this this conversation right now to bring these wonderful works out. Because he exposes it. He exposes it as the fraud it is.
Here, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up for people. So you got Inside World Agenda.
Yeah.
92. Yeah, the UN Earth Summit. There was a lot of things discussed. This was sort of the idea of Agenda 21 and all of that as well. America's secret establishment. Wow. Amazing.
So don't let us tell us that it's just boogaloo nutballs and the conspiracy movement who are waving, banging a spoon against this. There's been insiders who were there, who were invited. Because remember, they need to recruit. They're also a recruiting agency, right? They want they want recruits. They want people like this George Hunt, you see, to take this globalistic communitarian message out. Otherwise, how can it work? They write their manifestos, and then they need people who only know the headlines, who've only got the sound bites, but they're very valuable. They're the useless idiots that take it out, right, to the public, to the world, and just having it as a meme inside your head is enough for these people, you see. But my God, never for 1 minute imagine that just moving mercurially in your society, I'll give you a few examples there, is really anything about happiness. Happiness is something you dime on. You have joy, pleasure. Read Wilhelm Reich. Man does not experience pleasure. This is a myth. It actually takes real work, psychological, hygienic cleansing of the body, right? Which should be equated with the unconscious. The mind, the emotions, all of it needs to be hygienically clean before you can be a Reichian, organic human being that's actually can experience pleasure. We don't experience pleasure in this world or joy. We experience gratification. And we've learned to, the left brain has talked us right into imagining that the one is a synonym of the other, and that it is not. And, it's only when you've done some real major fucking Tai Chi and Qigong and really got into, the martial arts and purged the shit out of yourself, and got to a level of sensitivity because of you're doing the shadow work, that you could hope in a million years, you see, to come to the sensitivity where you really will savor real pleasure and real joy. It's not something that's out there. It might be found in children in that spontaneity, but as we know, that quickly gets erased as well. So the real thing is missing in the West. It really is. And I would say that some people, when they go to the East, one thing that strikes them, and this certainly is a virtue to a degree, when you go over there, that even though people are saturated in poverty, their eyes are shining and they seem to be happier. You know what I mean? And so these guys will love to come in and tell you that's because of the hyper communalization. But then that's not true for South America, where they're not happier, even though they're hyper communal as well. They're at each other's throats and there's a lot of crime and all the rest of it, you see, a lot of depression and what have you. So yes, there's an argument that can be made that, when you're in the tribe or some sort of, non-Western setup, you're happier. But we're not talking about them. Whether they're happy or not is irrelevant to what we are doing in the West. And so the formula of gaining happiness here amongst Anglo-Saxon people who are very individualized, very independent, they can't just cluster up like everybody else. That's one of the defining differences. That's why race has to be brought to the table. It's one of the reasons, because then we can just coldly analyze the facts and get that one straight. Since Anglo-Saxon man is so differentiated and loves to wander off on his own and contemplate, be in nature, his formula is not the same as it is in non-Western climes. That's just a simple fact. And in fact, it was understood by anthropologists for hundreds of years that this was the case. So therefore, the formula of how the Western man attains happiness is very, very different, even though there are some very standard universal truths. Like I said, the emotional cleansing. Well, they're doing it in the Orient, right? When they're doing their Tai Chis and they're cleaning their bodies and they're cleaning their meridians and they're making themselves sensitized. Right now, with the obesity and the drug uses and the bad food, the toxic air, the fluorescent lights and everything else, it would take years for even a teenager to purge themselves of all of that. Although, with martial arts and other things, it's a little bit, if you really commit to it properly, you will hasten that process, no doubt. But it still takes, as you can probably testify, a lot of fucking time to really purge it. But see, without doing it, so don't you hand me no, Christmas cracker, happy pills all they're doing is now promising you the happy pill on a global level. It's Equilibrium, the movie, right? But for the collective. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because this is the question of our time now. What is the role of government anyways? Okay. And I know some people are asking again about anarchism, and we can get into that another time, Michael, unless you want to say something about it. But yeah, let's just say we're going with limited government based on the American ideal from, the founding fathers or whatever, right? It's a necessary evil. What is the role of government? Is the role of government there to make you happy? Is that their role? Is that why we're supposedly electing these people? No, the whole point of government, we spoke about this with Chuck Morse, was that the only function it should have is to protect and preserve your inherent rights. That's it. It's just there in that regard. It's not there to micromanage your life and make you happy. And that's when I get worried when I see these people getting together to discuss how can we just bypass all of this process, like what you're talking about, Michael, the natural process of what actually produces happiness and fulfillment and joy and inner peace and all of that. You need to strive. Exactly, because they want to take away the mechanism of striving for it. It's now just going to be a pill. It's going to be easy. It's going to be
from the outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like disease is something that you contract from the outside. And so when you need something, it's look, the formula is it's wrong to even imagine that even another human being can contain things like your happiness, let alone a government. What are we talking about? This is lies on steroids, right? But they actually do see themselves. Remember years ago, so many people made it clear. I've still got the quote somewhere about how these rights are privileges. They're not rights, and we'll decide. During around 9/11 and all, and even before Desert Storm, we might have to scroll back on some of your rights because they're not really rights. They're just privileges we give you. Oh yeah, and who gave you the same privileges? Then somebody further up the ladder. Then you're already admitting that if it's bestowed, who bestowed it on you, asshole? Head of the CIA or whoever you might be, or Colin Powell. By the same definition, you're just letting me know there must be a hierarchy of higher guys than you, bestowing. Because if you bestow it on me, somebody must bestow it on you. But everyone missed that. No, but the idea that even another human being can make you happy is already to be plunged into a hellish situation where you're estranged from your own inner being. And my work is now moving into a great analysis, a systematic analysis of how you get estranged from your imperial self. I've touched on it before, but what can you do when you're limited to some other person's stage? It's really limited, and I found myself in that position. So we've been building on slaves so that there won't be these restrictions on getting this dear truth out, which is not only taken, the vast majority of my life, but it needs to get out to the public this way, and how to redeem your power, because we need, solutions, right? But now that we know this, we can deconstruct their lies, and it has to be done systematically. And even though they control the West, they also control the East. So, it is a situation that people call us racist, where the work I'm doing is going to be as much valuable to the Indians when they want to free themselves from their Leviathan, right? The people in this movement are handing formulas and maps and guidelines to people that a fucking Eskimo could use. And yet you're going to point a finger at us being racist? I'm producing, solutions that the whole damn planet, wherever they're going to come under this filthy hidden wing, the wing of evil, this double-headed eagle stretching its wings like a beast over, all of mankind. How can you call us racist? We're benefactors of the whole of I don't give a damn what color your skin is or what race you come from. Let's all turn, if we can, we'll fight later on. Let's get rid of this entity first. That's been preying on, preying. Remember the clip in the movie They Live, where the black preacher's telling you they're everywhere, they're watching you, right? Let's get rid of that preacher first, and then we can, that pestilence first, and then we can decide. But you know what it's taken to open the eyes of the world, that there even is that vulture sitting on the rocks, watching your every move and controlling your every move? Look at what I've had to put into just 25 years with finding these videos and writing these books and putting this information up. And is the penny dropping in most people? It better bloody start. But their little pettiness will come and say, no, you're a racist, you're this and that. How can you look at my, creations and this smorgasbord of knowledge and claim that that's racist, when every single part of it nourishes everyone in this world? Should they have, we talked about this before, right? Should they have the hunger? You can bring the horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So there has to be a hunger and a sensitivity and an awakening. We're just waiting there, as teachers when the student is ready. But should they come to us, we're open. We're open. I'm not putting up any signs. Go, I don't like the spots in your face, so you can't come in and look at this knowledge. I have systematically gone through hell to put this information out to the public using, the means that we have, the technology, under incredible personal sacrifice, and an unspeakable fucking story, and an unspeakable fucking climb. It's so preposterous that you couldn't even write it down. They think you're making it up. They literally think you were Lewis Carroll. You think you were making this up, that you just spun this tale. It's so utterly preposterous. But the focus of people should be, what can I do with this knowledge? But see, that's the last of their concern. Here's the ingredients for true eudaimon. Here's the teachings for real upgrading. And even if you only take the names I've mentioned, forget my own work and analysis, just the mere palette of the people that I suggest, more eminent than me, more degreed than me, since you seem to all want that, hey, bring it on. I can name you the top people. Like you just mentioned, this Gustave Le Bon, right? Go read them then. Just use me as a conduit, as a wayshore, right? There is no excuse. So when you're dealing on the level of high truth, right? High mysticism, all of these things about race and culture and color and sex and caste and money is already by default meaningless. So how dare you, from your fucking gutters, who hasn't moved a muscle to help fucking anyone, right, ever come in and start critiquing? We're already beyond that, mate. We're already fucking way beyond that. And even though there may be some commentary and certainly a lot of rational statements we may make, don't you ever forget what plateau we're on and who you're dealing with here. And the weeds we've had to dig up, both personally and socially, to do this kind of work. It's a vocation. And the non-vocational person cannot comment on it. I don't want to hear what you got to say about it. All I want to see you do is take these lessons, take this wisdom, and go and apply it in your own life and see. Then you come back saying, this was false. This didn't work for me. Or I found, this was working better. Or, your Ayn Rand was brilliant, Michael. But, the other thing you're talking about, I didn't care for. Hey, am I lecturing you and hectoring about you got to accept 100% everything I say? I've purposely made this thing so variegated, right? And so colored like a chocolate box full of different flavors. I've made it that way on purpose. In fact, some people think it's a detriment that they can't fathom where to start with my work because it is literally so variegated. Yes, that was by design, right? I've turned hobbies and interests, and I know when I'm coming to the world, don't be a one-track pony. Don't speak to the choir and don't burn yourself out. Have an incredible, colorful array so that, because I'm honoring the world. I'm honoring the diversity and the difference of the world. But you're a racist. Where's the empirical proof of that fact? Loving my own race isn't also empirical proof of that either, but tell me anywhere else then that you can find it. And then compare me to the utter selfishness, narcissism, and racism and bigotry of the people that we have to deal with every day, trying to throw stones in our face. This is ridiculous. Then you know what you need to do? Go, like that lady in Architects of Control, suck it, and take the Prozac smile Everything's okay. All last traces, right, of the legitimate anxiety of the true imperial self, axed. That's the happiness, these buggers. And I've been saying it. I said it in my post-human thing in 2011 when we went to Australia, New Zealand, right? I went and did that tour. Did it in London. Architects of Control before that, 2009. We honed in on these very things that you're reading, that we will get in line. Like Huxley fucking knew. They knew we'll get in line for it. You won't have to come with them and shove it down their face like, you know, some of the movies show. No, we line up for it, because the pain of walking the Siddhartha road, the pain of being an authentic person, the pain of leaving the mob, you know, the hive mentality, the consensus trance, is so utterly painful to step outside the walls of the collective that we'll be not only walking back, we'll be running back, banging, "Master, let me in. Hail the masters. Hail the elite. Give me the happy pills right now, this minute, because I'm depressed being myself. I'm depressed being who I am." There comes your cyborgs. There comes your bots. You know, a lot of, and you'll live in an artificial intelligence world. That's what people want. I am not, my philosophy is simply stated this way. Nobody's forcing you to lose your soul. But as Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how outrageous and lunatic, in order to stop, you know, facing themselves. And the government know that. So when they wave deep memory, deep brain, you know, the new one, happiness, it works for the scarecrow. He's there, right there. He's first in line. Politics has just tenderized us. The two-party system, all the things we've always talked about make the center of our work. It's just tenderizing you until your soul is lost. But they can't take it from you. Please understand this. It's not the right. It's not the contract. It's not the karma. You have to hand it up on a plate. That's what it's all about. Then, right, evil exists. Then you let it in. It's a white magic ritual, not a black magic ritual. It's white magic all the way. You are the one who signs on the dotted line and says, "Take this burden away from me." Right? Religion tenderized us for this. With Jesus, help God, which just means the submission, just means the instantiation of a terrible master-slave dynamic in which you're on your fucking knees with somebody's boot on your neck. That just tenderized us for psychiatry, right, where the psychiatrist replaces the priest, and then the politics in which, you know, these lunatics, these basically the world's greatest psychopaths, get in power, wave a little flag, and have a horde of moronic people running around believing, you know, they're the most toxic people, telling you about justice, equality, and human rights. The most violent people, self-violent. But if you don't know what self-violence is, which most people don't, they've never heard of autophobia, they have never heard of self-sadism, right, so you'll just look through it and not even see it. You'll literally take it for what it is. But when you know what it really is, right, psychologically, then you don't look to those people to be handing you, you know, the most vital virtues that only come from deep contemplation, introspection, differentiation, and thought and study. How could that horde of, you know, pussy hat wearing lunatics running around college campuses, screaming in your face? They're the most self-murdered fucking people on earth. You think they're going to hand you the roadmap to a global utopia? Take a look around and tell me I'm wrong. Look at the state of the world, because these people have been unleashed.
It's wow. That was epic. And Michael, I totally hear what you're saying. And it's funny, we just released our sort of promotional trailer for Unslaved, which I'm very proud of, put a lot of work into it. And I opened up that trailer with your words on how freedom is at the center of our being, and how the whole point of doing this concept of Unslaved was to go in and question, you know, and you said it, just, you were so casual about it. You're like, do people even think about it? Do they even really contemplate it? I mean, we throw these words around, we talk about freedom. There's all these different parties and different groups you can join that are trying to advocate for freedom. I mean, you can go join up with, you know, all kinds of different groups, but do we even think about it on an individual level? What freedom really is all about, you know?
We do, if it's chains of gold. All human beings don't mind getting rid of the master above, but they're much more reticent to get rid of the slave below. Everyone in the modern world thinks, yeah, those chains of iron, I'm sick of those. Down with the chains of iron. But as Patrick McGowan said, give me the chains of gold and I'm your man. Vote, vote, vote. And as you talked about anarchy, I'm deeply, deeply into anarchy. But not of the political brand. That's a farce. That's a myth. And the only people who want it are some of the scuzzbag, ne'er-do-well, will-less, docile bodies we're talking about. That's for them. They are the ones that Blake talked about when he said the fist that crushes the tyrant's head becomes a tyrant in its stead. Okay, Occupy? Right? I'm interested in attitudinal anarchy, where you're free in your mind. There ain't too many of them around, man. So don't sell me the other shit. Don't sell me the exoteric version. I'm not interested. You can scream, you can chew bricks, you can chew the carpet. All these advocates out there go, anarchy, anarchy, anarchy. Shoot a cop. Have some fun. Burn the world. Nobody's going to fuck with me and my AK-47. What the hell are you talking about? Right? It's attitudinal. And that is an act of the Zen master. And even they haven't got it now. Most of those guys don't know what they're talking about. It's just more pre-slip. The real thing is something so much vaster than that. Right? It's going light. It's like the Fool, two different kinds of light. And everybody on this planet is separated by which light they're signing on for. The light of luminescence or the other kind of light, the feather light. Whoa, all the difference in the world right there. We explored that. So anarchy, yes, I'm all for it. But it's the anarchy of a Cervantes, right? It's the anarchy of an Ezra Pound. It's the anarchy of a Wilhelm Reich, who's so vocationally attuned, or a Tesla, or a Walter Russell, right? Who's so in tune with themselves that they don't need anything from you. They don't need you to hand them a promise of anything, happiness or any other thing. They're not looking to you because they're totally deeply entrenched, in dialogue with their imperial self, which provides all that is needed. Right? So they're not looking to you for anything. They're not prostituting you and they're not prostituting themselves. They're completely beyond that stage. They're in touch with the great ultimate, which is, as you said, the flow of freedom. Freedom is just a synonym for the great ultimate, the great Tao, that holds you to no contracts, doesn't present itself either as teacher to you or as student, and doesn't want you to be in any of those distinctions. It's just a commune in which two friends are walking on a path towards the truth. And the truth is with them. There isn't even any path to the truth. You're walking in it in this moment. But that requires a certain kind of sensitivity. Don't get me wrong. There's, you can't say that it just comes to you. There's no work. There's work involved because the world is malignant and toxic. And you've been brought up by toxic parents. And you've been brought up by toxic schools and teachers and priests and all the rest of the programming. So there is a moment where, to find the still point. In snake dance, the doctor, right, has to fight the snake, the dance of the snake. Yeah, you think you're going to be exonerated from that and get the enlightenment and truth? The dancing with a snake is to know the snake, to know it through and through, what it's all about, how it came into existence, and what weapons it uses to, hypnotize the shit out of you. So, and that takes anarchy of the mind, walking without rhythm. Very, very different process. Like we said, Crowley's magical will. Can I hold the exact opposite of every idea that I espouse and cleave to? It doesn't mean I throw out the ideas I cleave to, or that I chose, or that I favor. No, I have those. I'll keep them forever. But do I know the absolute refutation of it in the same bowl, in the same mind? No. The answer is no. Our education systems are not interested in that. They're interested in you in polarizing you into allegiances to tenderize you for the political game that comes later. They don't want you to be your own advocate, your own devil's advocate. But until you are, there is no chance of enlightenment. It's a myth. It's just a word that's been bandied around, courtesy of the left brain. The word is not the thing, right? So the thing, the real thing, I talk about the real thing, what it is, and the road to that. And that road always leads back to the self and back to purging, back to shadow work and all the things we make central to this, message. And it doesn't have much to do with other people. If other people sign on and walk with you and, that's all great. That's an extra cherry on the top. That's fantastic. But you never make that your motive. And you never make that, as Ayn Rand said, I'm not interested in what they're doing because I'm giving them complete freedom. Yeah, I can say no masters above, which all anarchists know how to say. Yeah, but what about the slaves below, asshole? Want me to come into your life and show you where they are? The real mystic has no masters above by all means, but no slaves below either, you see? Now, that kind of anarchy is, you have to read the fine print. They don't mean that. They mean plenty of slaves below. Just no masters above. I've seen through that bullshit. Look at this communism. That's what communism is defined as. You see? And yet they have the worst masters above, but, you know, the selling, the rhetoric, the pull you into the store, you know, is to sell you this idea of no masters above. And of course, a lot of people want that, and they're right. That's born out of a virtue. But you don't understand, you know, that it's a lure. It's a carrot this time. And so sometimes when life has been very, very rough, punitive and harsh for several years, these people bring out this gleaming, you know, big cake, like some Wizard of Oz, just festival, you know, a parade, a float down the street. Happiness, happiness. Oh, you remember the prisoner last scene? All you need is love. A scene of unimaginable chaos over which there's this incredible Beatles track. All you need is love. The greatest scene in any type of media ever fucking made. The man nailed it. And we'll go for it. Bury yourself up to your neck in it. And these ants will just eat you alive. It's a white magic ritual. Nobody tells you to do anything. Nobody tells you to sell your soul. You, out of fear, out of misgiving, out of complete, you know, wrong indoctrination, you hand it up every time, you know, and enter the wicker man of your own free will and watch yourself burn. This is self-immolation, totally and utterly.
Sorry, I was muted there. Wow, it's well said. And I mean, just on the practical side of it, like you said, when you want to come together with other individuals to get things done, then you need some kind of organization. There's always the way we can get in future discussions on some of the little aspects of that when it comes to anarchic principles or whatever. But the statement was made by Gustave Le Bon, like you said, in his book. You need to read about it. He critiques socialism, communism, and anarchism, and also does advocate for exactly what you're talking about, Michael, about the idea of individual sovereignty and the inner anarchism, so to speak. Anyways, man, I know you got to go. We probably went over time. I didn't want to keep you there, but maybe can you just say a quick word about the show coming up Sunday? We've got Ralph Ellis coming on again. Yeah,
he's got a lot of things to share about 17. He's also got more of his own research. You know, the man's just a genius. And as, you know, I'd love to have him on almost every other month, you know, but here we have to have him on once in a while, and we'll get his feedback about some of the things. He was thrown off Wikipedia last year and had a major altercation with Joseph Atwill, this ponce that does the rounds, you know. And Ralph's been in so much kerfuffle, you know, and then he's got his original theories about Jesus of Odessa. You know, this man's dug up the real Jesus. You'd think he'd be, you know, you'd think it'd be of interest to people, but no, like we've been saying, they prefer their mysteria instead, right? But yeah, he's also going to talk about the Ottoman Empire, which is an interesting subject for me. It's a favorite of mine, you see, and some of the goings on there, because the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire set the stage for the entire modern world. So without studying, you know, those two empires, especially their fall, especially the latter years, which was sort of around the end of the First World War as well. But a lot of people don't study that period. And then as we were talking with Chuck Morse, I mentioned that Ataturk, Kemal, and I think Pasha Enver Pasha went into the hands of the Bolsheviks after the fall. So here's professedly Muslim leaders, very eminent, right? And everyone knew they were kind of left and liberal, you know. They were progressives. That's who they are. That's who the Young Turks are. But after the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the you know, the First World War's endings, which destroyed the Austro-Hungarian, and Bolshevism came in and took over all the Tsar's lands, those two Muslims, leaders of eminence, went to Russia. One of them went to Russia, and both of them became committed Bolsheviks. Absolutely joined to the hip with the leading Bolsheviks at the time. So we're going to explore that with Ralph, you know, to bring that out as well. These are so many beautiful areas, but they're falling down the memory hole. And, you know, that time was a part of the reason why the world looks the way it does today. So it'll be really interesting to get his take on that and many other subjects too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely looking forward. Always a great time to chat with Ralph. Well, I've got some good news for people tuning in here. We're going to keep this show going. Michael Black has just agreed to come on and chat with me for a little bit about this subject and to get his take on it. And Michael, I know you've got some stuff you got to take care of. So all the best, man. Thanks for doing this quick show with me, and we'll catch up.
Say hi to Michael.
Will do.
Okay, later.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.